Hi, today is Saturday, April 1st, is the 6th day of the 5th week of Lent, and this is A Swede Speaks. And even though we have now entered April Fool's Day, well, I don't celebrate that, so I'm not going to kid around. The question that I would like to address here is, why do Swedes believe in multiculturalism? Or do they, really? Do they know what multiculturalism is? And if they know, do they believe in it, or are they just pretending? Multiculturalism is basically, well, we have to define here and draw the line here between multi-ethnicity and multiculturalism. As long as Sweden has existed, it has been multi-ethnic. In the prehistory of Sweden, we had the Swedes, or well, the Germanic tribe called Swedes, in Swedish Svear. We had the Gifs, or the Goths, the Germanic tribe of Gifs, in Swedish known as Götar. Not the same things as the Goths down on the continent, although some people want to connect them. I don't know about that, maybe. These two ethnic groups merged into one group, which is what we might call medieval Swedes, who eventually turned into modern Swedes. And there has been small minorities of Finns, Sami, Romani people, Jews, Germans, etc. in Sweden for hundreds of years. And they have arrived at different stages in Swedish history. I myself have Finnish, Swedish, German, English, and a little Norwegian, and the one Walloon, and a little Walloon in me. But all this is about ethnicities, not about multiculturalism. The interesting thing here is that many Swedes who argue the case for multiculturalism don't live in the areas affected by it. I would define multiculturalism as the idea that all cultures are basically equal and all cultures have the same right to exist at the same place in the same time. That it doesn't really matter if people in Sweden speak Swedish, Spanish, or Arabic with each other, and as their mother tongue, or with each other. It doesn't really matter if the people of Sweden abandon the Swedish language and start speaking English or Spanish or Arabic instead. It doesn't really matter what kind of culture that is dominating in the country. You got multiculturalism somewhere there. And I believe that many Swedes believe in multiculturalism on the level that they think that it's nice to have new cuisine introduced to the country, known as the pizza argument, that before the immigrants came, and by immigrants people are thinking of the immigrant waves that started sometime after World War II, late 40s, early 50s, with Italians, people from the Balkans, people from Finland, people from Greece, etc. And many of these brought their food with them, or well, they all did, of course. And pizza became a hit in Sweden. On the other hand, hamburgers and sushi also eventually became hits in Sweden without having massive American or Japanese immigration. Because the thing is, it's not about food. I have no problems with the pizza argument. I like pizza. And by the way, Italians are not trying to push Sharia in Sweden, so no problems there. But I think what many people in Sweden think, they think that there is no big difference between someone born in Sweden with Swedish parents, someone who arrived in Sweden recently, someone who is born in Sweden with, say, Arabic or Somali parents. And the idea is that when the newcomers see how nice the Swedes are, when they see how good everything functions, they will turn into Swedes too. That on the inside of everyone in the world lives a little Swede who wants to, well, come out. That's the idea. But what happens instead? Because let me tell you what's typically Swedish. And this is sad, but I think it's true. It's typically Swedish to pretend that there is nothing that is typically Swedish. If one would talk about, for instance, Swedish food, Swedish meatballs, someone might argue, but they eat meatballs in Denmark too, thus not typical Swedish. If you would argue about judicial concepts, they would say that they've got similar concepts in Britain. Well, that's because Sweden is a part of Western culture, at least to some extent. It doesn't mean that there are not specific Swedish traits. Let me give you one or two Swedish traits that I think are positive. A positive Swedish trait is the ability to stand in a line and wait for your turn without complaining. You can't count on that in everywhere in the world. Another typical Swedish trait is to get on a place in time. Swedes value time highly, and you're supposed to be on time. And those are positive Swedish traits. Let me give you a negative one. The negative Swedish trait is Swedes are harmed by the long peace period. It has affected Swedish culture. Swedes think that every conflict can be solved if you just sit down around the table and drink a cup of coffee and talk about things. I think that's why Swedish police tried by handing out hot dogs. I suppose those were halal hot dogs. I don't know, but I think so. And coffee to rioters after there'd been a riot. They have tried it in several locations in Sweden. And I guess the idea was for the police to get to know the rioters, or the rioters to get to know the police, and then everything would be fine. It's the naivety, the Swedish naivety. That's why I sometimes wonder if I'm really Swedish. I have a feeling that I would fit better in America than I do in Scandinavia. But we'll see. Maybe one day. I hope so. And before I come to a conclusion here, because there is one other fact I need to mention, or two facts. A friend of mine, who is studying to become a teacher, recently told me that they have a mandatory class, or a mandatory course, in feminism and ethnicity as a part of this education in Sweden. Yeah, the neo-left agenda, the SJW ideas. And it's just so troubling. And as one of my viewers sent me an article from Breitbart about how feminists in Sweden move away from the multicultural areas. Well, I guess because of how these areas turn into places resembling the Middle East. And I'm not talking about ethnicity here. I'm talking about religion, the religion of Islam, and clan cultures. And they didn't want to live there. Isn't that interesting? But I think some of these feminists were actually not ethnically Swedish, but because there is a difference between feminists and feminists in Sweden. I could to some extent support the ones who are actually of Middle Eastern, Persian, and similar backgrounds, and who are addressing real problems that I agree with, while I think that feminists in Sweden of Swedish ancestry or Western ancestry who just focus on, well, stupid things, like if you should address men and women by the same word, if gender is a biological fact or a social construct, and all these ideas, I don't support it at all. But I suppose but the thing is, most of the people who like these policies or who propose multiculturalist views don't live in the neighborhoods that have been mostly affected by these policies. And I don't think they really believe in multiculturalism. They believe in their own idea about how it should be. They believe in a kumbaya ideology where everyone holds hands and are happy. And they close their eyes to what's really going on. So, why do Swedes believe in multiculturalism? They believe in it because they want it to work. They want it to be true. They want everyone to hold hands and sing kumbaya. And they don't care that this is not the case. And that's what I have to say about this right now. I would like to thank the people who are supporting this channel through PayPal, through Patreon, through prayers. It's all very important and greatly appreciated. And if you like this channel, please subscribe. I recommend you to click the little bell. I think it helps. Please share my videos on social media, on Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And I really want you to help me with this because I am now trying to reach 1,000 subscribers. If you got something to say, please comment. And if you like this video, please like it. And I am happy and grateful for any support. And I will include all the necessary information in the information box below. This is a Swede Speaks. Have a nice day.